Where's Joe? Where's our president?
Well, that's a good question, right? He's really gone to the basement now. So I've been saying, like, look at this guy's got COVID and he's got all these medical issues. People forget he may have got out of the race, but he's still our commander in chief. He's still our head of state. We still got months and months here where our country could be in danger at a moment's notice. And I don't have any confidence that this guy can do the job. And, so I don't know. It's a good question. His doctor needs to come out and tell us what's going on. He needs to get in front of the camera and speak to the country.
The doctor did put out a notice that he took his 10th dose of Paxlovid.
Good God.
Have you heard this?
Yeah.
What is that about?
It's a treatment that they're using for his supposed COVID. I honestly question whether or not he actually even has COVID. I mean, I know his doctor. Wouldn't hesitate to say whatever needs to be said, do whatever needs to be done, for political purposes. And it's really convenient that all this happens and suddenly, he's getting, really killed, by his own party, and he needs a reason. They need a reason to get him off of the campaign trail, get him off of the camera, and regroup. And so suddenly he gets diagnosed with COVID, and he's secluded and out of the picture for 10 days. One of the first things I noticed is they diagnosed him with COVID, and then he gets off the plane. He's walking down the steps, and these you know how the Dems are with they're mask Nazis, right? And now he's got actually a diagnosis of COVID. He has no mask on. He gets off the plane. They do an event, everything. He gets off the plane when he gets to Delaware at night. That night, he's been diagnosed for COVID for most of the day now. No mask. So, I mean, it's just, obviously they're hypocrites anyways, but I just honestly don't think he has COVID. I think that it was an excuse to sequester him away and try to, regroup and figure out what's going on here. And then I guess, it was made obvious to them that, that they're done. Either he leaves or Nancy Pelosi is going to come out publicly and start criticizing him, and Kamala Harris is going to talk to the cabinet about, exercising the 25th Amendment and removing him forcefully.
Hold on, Dr. Jackson. Dr. Jackson, hold on now. I have to play this for you. You just committed an egregious act of racism.
Heard from inside Republican circles and right-wing media that the hate campaign against Kamala Harris has begun. You'll notice they purposefully pronounce her name wrong. They say Kamala. They do it all the time. It is on purpose, but the talk is...
Wow. Dr. Jackson, would you like to rebuke David Duke? Right
I'm telling you,
who you are currently channeling.
This is insane, right? We knew they were going to do this. We knew that, what do they have to hang their hat on? Her great policy over the last, 3.5 years as vice president? I don't think so, right? Her unbelievable ability to communicate, to speak, and for people just to, fall in love with her. That's not happening. She's the first one out during the primary process, because even her own party doesn't like her. She's just like Hillary. She's just not likable, right? So they're going to do everything they can to try to shut people up. Well, they're not going to shut me up first. I mean, not the first time people called me a racist and a xenophobe and transphobe and everything. They want to label you all the time because they think if they can label you, and it's true, human nature. Most people will retreat. They'll stop. They'll back up. They'll retreat, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to shut everybody up. They're going to call everybody a racist that agrees with anything she does, and it's not going to work. I mean, the country's sick of this at this point. This is why we're where we're at right now, is because the whole country is sick of this woke agenda. We're done with it.
Talking to Congressman Dr. Ronny Jackson, former White House physician. Have you heard the rumors that there was some sort of medical emergency in Las Vegas, and Biden got on Air Force One immediately and flew immediately to Andrews really quickly, and there's even specifically the rumor says perhaps he had a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. Have you heard of this, and what is that?
Well, I've heard of it. I don't know if there's any truth there or not. We'll have to find out. A TIA is like a mini stroke. It's a transient ischemic attack. It's where generally, and he has atrial fibrillation, so he's prone to develop blood clots, even though he's being treated with the anticoagulants for it to form blood clots in his heart, which one of them can then flick off and end up in his brain and block the blood and the oxygen supply to his brain, and it causes like a stroke. That's how strokes happen sometimes. But a TIA would be a mini stroke where it temporarily blocks it off, and then it ends up passing and getting reperfused, and so the symptoms end up going away. But you can have all the symptoms of a stroke, they just don't last as long. But look, I don't know if that happened or not. I'm not sure, but that's easily verifiable. We should be reaching out to the Secret Service and asking for some of the phone logs and some of the radio traffic that was going on then, because that was happening. They were calling ahead. They were letting the field agents know. They were letting the agent that's at the hospital know that they might be coming there. They were letting the ambulance and the motorcade know. There was probably phone calls from staff, going around talking about what was happening. The information is out there, so if that happened, we need to know about it. I mean, once again, just to reiterate, the guy is the President of the United States. He has a consequential role in everything that's happening in our world right now.
Netanyahu is speaking in Congress tomorrow, and no one was there to meet him at the airport.
Right.
Greet him up, him or Kamala. And Kamala said she's not even going to preside over the over Congress when he visits either. Like we still need to be a commander in chief.
She's terrified of starting up the pro-Hamas group again. She wouldn't know what to do with that.
So Joe had a aneurysm.
He did. He had an aneurysm. He had two of them actually. He had one that ruptured and bled, and that
was
one
like 40.
Yeah, that one was pretty serious. I mean, that one he ended up in the hospital, and I've read, obviously that was a long time ago, that he didn't go back to work in the Senate for months and months and months after that because it was such a significant event. And then I think the second one, they found the aneurysm and clipped it while they were doing a workup, evaluating him, for after the first one. But yeah, he's had a couple of aneurysms, one that bled out, which is technically that's a hemorrhagic stroke.
There again, we're still. It's all very new. We're operating in Rumorville right now, but we had someone call in actually who has a source that perhaps he is at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Would that be possible? Like when you were White House doctor, would you have ever brought the president to Johns Hopkins Hospital?
No, that's not that. I don't think that's the case. If that happened, there's just really. There comes a point where they can't hide it anymore. That they wouldn't be able to hide that. If they were going to take him somewhere discreetly without us knowing him, they would take him to Walter Reed. There's an entire ward at Walter Reed. We used to call it the Me Too. I don't know what they call it now, but the Medical Evaluation and Treatment Unit. It's an entire wing of the hospital at Walter Reed that has everything you could possibly want in a hospital. It has an ICU room. It has like a minor surgical suite. It has just a room for all of his staff to stay in. His chief of staff, his doctor, his Secret Service detail. There's a security room there for them. There's a room for the First Lady to stay in. So it's basically it was designed specifically for that, for privacy and security of the president. If something bad were to happen, that's where he would go. And they could roll it into his COVID diagnosis as to why he was there and kind of cover it up. They have so much more control. I don't think they would ever take him to Hopkins. I mean, it was a life-threatening emergency.
So Walter Reed has basically a little mini private hospital for just the president?
That's correct.
Would the vice president ever go there or anything like that, or is it just the president?
It's just for the president. I mean, the president could designate it. Wow. He could if something bad happened to the vice president, so he could say, I want them to go and be taken care of in my suite. But it's up to him. It's at his discretion.
No way. Why are you not the doctor for Biden? Like I would maybe understand if you were just the doctor for a Republican president, but you were also the doctor for Obama. You were W. Obama and Trump. Why are you not Joe's doctor?
Well, because I was on active duty, so I was an active duty Navy emergency medicine physician and a Navy admiral at the White House. And I took care of all three of these administrations. But if you remember, I'll tell you, it's the only reason that I'm in Congress. It's the only reason that I'm here right now is President Trump and I got along really well, and President Trump nominated me for the Secretary of the VA. And then this group of people, honestly, it was some of it was led by President Biden's current physician, who used to work for me during the Obama administration. They went to Tester and made up all of this garbage. He was the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee at the time, and they would be doing my confirmation hearing. And they made up all of this ridiculous garbage to try to tear down my nomination. And obviously, I'm not the person now that I was then, or I would have reacted a little bit differently. But, I'd never seen anything like it before. I tell people I got Kavanaugh before Kavanaugh did. I was the warm-up. I was the pregame. I just didn't know it. But long story short, after that experience, after that happened, I was like, look, I'm getting out of the military. I'm leaving. I'm done. And so I was just planning to get out. But, as time went on, I thought to myself, you know what? This ain't how this ends. And so there was an opportunity to run for Congress, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go back home. I'm going to retire. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to run for Congress, and these idiots are going to have to deal with me in Congress. And that's where I'm at right now. And so I'm here because in a large part because I got an axe to grind, man. I'm going to clean this place up. I'm disgusted with our government, with what's happened to it, over the last, really since the beginning of the Obama administration. So, I'm here for the right reasons. I'm not here because I love politics or I've always wanted to be a politician.
Question about Trump. If his head didn't turn, we've all seen the visual and the graphics and the, what would have been. So if he did not turn his head and that bullet took the trajectory, and went through his brain in that, it wasn't a huge part of his brain, but it was still through his brain. What would the damage have been?
Oh, I mean, he'd have been instantly dead. I mean, there's no way if that bullet would have entered his head, he would have 100%. He would have been dead. And I tell people, I'm not trying to be gruesome or anything, but I want people to understand how serious this actually was. But it took off the top part of his ear. It scooped out the top of his ear as it went over the top of his ear, caused like a whole bunch of bleeding. It was bleeding like crazy. His ear, right after it was all swollen up, it was still bleeding. It was an injury. It was a significant injury, but nothing compared to what would have been if he had not moved just a few centimeters in one direction, because that bullet would have went in, and there would have been a nice clean hole where it went in, and when it came out on the other side, it would have taken everything in his head out with it. I mean, it's just that's the way those rounds work. I mean, I have lots of 5.56 guns and rifles, and I shoot things. I go hunting and stuff, and I mean, I know what that rifle and that round will do to tissue, specifically to your head, to a head. I've seen animals shot in the head with it, and it's just it's horrific. I mean, he would not have survived it. There's just no way.
Oh, it's amazing. I will never get over how close it all was and how horrific it could have been if it was just millimeters away. Dr. Jackson, any final thoughts on Joe Biden right now, what you know, and why you're calling for a 25th Amendment? Are you calling for 25th Amendment?
Well, I mean, I think that, how do you not? I'm not one of the ones that's out there the loudest. I've been talking about it for a long time. I think everybody knows where I stand on it. I've been talking about it since, 2019 when he was candidate Joe Biden. But I just don't see how you can come out and say, this man is cognitively not fit to run for president and be president for 4 more years, yet make the argument that, but he's totally fine until January 20 of next year, right? That seems crazy.